Welcome to the AccessData Certified Examiner Study Guide. I'm Justin Tolman. I'm the Director of Training at AccessData, an Xterra company. And what we're going to do in this video is go over some of the concepts that are involved in the AccessData Certified Examiner exam, because that's what it is. We're going to talk about the exam and some of the structure and how we approached it this year in this version of the certification. Okay, so let's get into it. So, of course, the certification objective is to demonstrate that you know how to use AccessData's forensic toolkit. Okay, so in this exam, there's no real forensic questions. You don't really have to know the background of artifacts and things like that. We're not going to ask you to dissect a master file table or anything like that. It's going to test your knowledge of the tool and can you use the tool to find the answers to the questions that we give. So if there's anything that requires knowledge of artifacts, it will give that information to you in the question, and then you'll go from that. So again, the test is testing if you know how to use the tool. Okay, so don't worry too much about forensic knowledge if you're new to forensics. If you've been around forensics forever, your forensics knowledge is awesome. You won't necessarily need it for this. Prerequisites. Are there any prerequisites for this exam? Technically, no. We do recommend that if you are new to AccessData products, specifically Forensic Toolkit, that you take some sort of training, because the test is designed for those who have either A, taken some training and used the tool, or have been using the tool for some time. The classes we recommend, or class in this case, would be Forensic Toolkit 101. It's a 4-day class. It's going to start from everything from installing to reporting and everything in between, searching, filtering, manipulation of the interface, customization of the interface, how we display information, all that sort of stuff. Forensic Toolkit 101 is your friend when it comes to preparing for the ACE. Again, it's a 4-day class and it's going to cover all the features covered in the exam and much more. So that would be my recommendation. Let's talk about the exam itself now. One change that we made in the 2021 version of the AccessData Certified Examiner is we do not give you the processing options for the exam. This is a change from previous, where the exam instructions would tell you exactly how to process it and then you would go about it. We feel that knowing what artifacts you're looking for, again, we will tell you and we will give hints in the questions as to where the answer may lie. Being able to look at that and determine what processing options you need is important to using Forensic Toolkit. It's a highly customizable tool in both what we process and how the data is laid out. And so being able to recognize that and do that is an important piece of working through Forensic Toolkit. So in the instructions, it will give you some indication of the larger processing items. It's going to ask you to, for example, enable index search. We'll also tell you, for example, to use the known file filter, and we provide the hash list that you will need to use, but we don't tell you how to set it up and how to run it and how to find the results associated with it. So various things are given to you, but interpreting the processing options is ultimately up to you. One thing we will recommend, though, is that you do process the image within FTK prior to starting the exam on the website. That way you're ready to roll with at least most of the big stuff that you may want to look at. If you can't find the information that you're looking for with the current processing options, remember you can always go up to evidence, additional analysis, and run more processing options later. Past processing, the first section of the exam, is going to test you on your knowledge of the interface. So it'll be questions like find this file, how many of this file type, that sort of thing. Again, there's going to be multiple ways to determine the answers to these questions because it is Forensic Toolkit and there's always more than one way to do something, but that's fine. We're not testing a certain workflow. We're testing your ability to use the tool to answer the question. And that's fine. If you were to answer it a different way than somebody else, there's only one answer for each of the questions. So it's fine. All right, so some example questions that may be asked, these are not on the exam, but similar things, is how many Microsoft Word files are shown in the interface. Here we are in FTK. If that was our question, how many Microsoft Office documents there are, there's a couple ways to do that. Of course, you could do a filter, build that out. You could go to the Overview tab, for example, and go to File Category and Documents, expand that out, and you have Microsoft Documents, and you can see that there's 2. The actual number doesn't really matter. Very rarely you're going to just have to give a raw count, but frequently you may have to look for a certain document type or a certain file type, and that is what we are testing in a question like this. If you are looking for a specific document, do you know how to isolate that specific document and proceed with your analysis? Okay, so next question, is equipment.xlsx a sparse file? So it doesn't matter if you know what a sparse file is, what the attributes of that are, what it belongs to, etc. You just need to be able to determine true or false, yes or no, whatever the question may be. Is it a sparse file? Okay. So if we were within FTK, again, first off, you need to be able to find equipment.xlsx. There's multiple ways of going about that. If we were to come down to spreadsheets and select that and select equipment.xlsx, okay, attributes related to files will be stored in the properties, and you can view down through here, see sparse, and it says false. It's not a sparse file. The answer in this case would be false or something along that line, depending on what your options were. And again, the test isn't determining whether you know what a sparse file is. Here we're testing, do you know how to view the properties of a file within FTK? All right. Do you know that process? And now for a last interface example question, what files are located within Bluepee's OneDrive directory? A question like this is just testing your ability to find a directory, view the files within it. Very basic, but an important part of any investigative workflow. So we're going to make sure that you know how to do it. So we come to the Explore tab. In this case, I pre-expanded it out so you don't have to watch me click through. And we see down in the OneDrive documents, equipment.xlsx is in there. Choose that from the response and move on to the next question. So interface examples will be stuff like that, making sure that you can navigate through, find the files, find the file type, find the properties, etc. for various different types of files. Realize there may be questions that deal with the file list pane down here, dealing with columns, may have to customize some columns, those types of things. But again, navigating the interface, we're going to cover that in a couple questions. Filtering is a big part of any forensic investigation, taking a lot of data and making it small. We're going to test your ability to take a lot of files and filter it down to a few files to find that evidence that you're looking for, or at least reduce the amount of files that you have to dig through by eliminating stuff that you don't care about. Okay, very important in any forensic investigation. So some example questions that you might see is what device, specifically a model of that device, took the photo located in Lakeview? So this type of question is testing a couple different things here. First off, yes, you're going to need to know how to filter, but you need to know where to look. You may need to modify some columns to get that. Okay, but it tells you, okay, we're looking for a photo, so it's a graphic, and we know we're going to be answering a question related to the device's model, okay? And we know that it was in Lakeview. Now, jumping into FTK, we have a ton of graphics in this little image, just 4. And so we can look through and we can see we've got 2 from Apple and 2 from a Canon. All right, iPhone 10 and a Canon EOS SD. So we need to write a filter to sort these down to bring a lot of images down to a smaller amount of images. So if you wanted to do that, you would go up to Filter and New. And in this dropdown, you can come down to More, Geolocation, GeoExif Tagged, and you could go to Geotagged City. I like to do Contains Case Insensitive. And then we could type in Lakeview and do a live preview, and you're left with the one image that is from Lakeview. So the answer to that question would be whatever that file name is by date there, and move on with the next question. But you're going to get there by using filters. Okay. And again, in this case, to get an idea of maybe what column we needed to look at a different column set. Again, testing your knowledge of the FTK interface. The next example question, how many emails are from Lance in November? So let's jump over to FTK. We'll take a look at it. We find ourselves in the email tab. Let's write a filter to show us all emails from Lance that were in November. So as far as our properties, we'll come down, select more. We'll go down to email and do from. Contains case insensitive. We still have our last one in there, and we're going to say Lance, and we'll live preview that. So now we can see Lance, all of our messages from. And then we're going to add another rule, and we'll go back down and we'll do more email features, and we're going to do submit time. And in this case, we'll say is between, and we're going to say 11/01/2020 at 0 a.m. to 11/30/2020 at 23:59:59. Commit that. And so we have 2. Lastly, for filtering, testing the concept of nesting filters within filters. So how many URLs are from Google or Bing searches that do not contain the term Palmetto? All right, let's take a look at how you might write that filter. Cool, let's jump in and take a look at this filter. All right, so we find ourselves now in the Internet tab. That's where our URLs will be. We're looking for a URL that contains either Google or Bing searches that do not contain the word Palmetto. We're going to go up to filter and we're going to say new. And we're going to name this one Internet Searches. Okay. And so in this case, the property is already set to URL. We're going to say contains case insensitive. I just like that one. And we're going to say Google. We'll live preview. Okay. We've got a few here. Google, Google, Google. Now we're going to add another one. URL contains case insensitive. And we're going to say Bing. All right. Now, we don't have a link that is both Google and Bing, and that's because we've got match all. That's an and. We're going to say match any, and now we have both Google and Bing searches. And you can see, looking at some of the hits, that we have Palmetto in at least 3 of them just glancing at it. Now we need either or on Google and Bing, so we have an or, and we need to omit Palmetto. You can't do this in one filter. Filters are limited to either all ors or all ands. Notice it's just a toggle here for all the rules. And that's why we're going to give this one a name. Let's move this up a little bit. And we'll go ahead and save that as Internet Searches. Okay, we'll close that real quick. We'll go up to filter, and we'll go to new. At this point, we're going to say URL does not contain case insensitive Palmetto. Okay, we'll live preview to make sure that we are typing that in right, that everything's flowing the way it should. And then we're going to add another rule. This time we're going to call a filter matches, and then we'll find our Internet Searches from our list. Internet Searches, and it needs to match all. And so now, by doing match all, both of these have to be true. URL cannot contain Palmetto, and the URL must contain Google or Bing. And what we have here is we have our Google searches and our Bing searches, but none of the ones that included the word palmetto. Filtering, super important. Searching, maybe more important. And so there will be a bunch of questions regarding searching. Specifically, we're going to hit on index search. So this is a processing option that we do tell you up front. So we cover searching, okay? Now, some example questions that we're going to go over with searching. So which file contains the word intolerant? And if you don't get any hits, expand the search to include other forms of the word. There's several ways to do this. In this case, we're going to use the search options to modify how strict FTK is when it searches. And here we are in the index search tab. We're going to type in the word intolerant and hit enter to enter that word. Notice that we do not have any hits. If I were to run a search for all files, we get 0 hits. But if I come into options and I turn on fuzzy and I crank this up a little bit and I click OK and now search and hit OK, notice I have one file. And if I look at that file, we get from a Word document the word intolerance. Okay, when we make that fuzzy, it's going to open it up just a little bit and look at more diverse words related to that word intolerant. Okay, next question. What is the search term used in Bing which includes the term rifle? Okay, so again, there's a couple different ways to run this search, but let's take a look at one way that you can do it. So back in the index search tab, we're going to search for Bing and rifle. This means that all of our results will have to have both of those words in the document or it's not returned. So we'll hit add. We've got 109 total hits. We'll say search now and include all files. We'll expand out DT search, allocated files. We have documents. We select our gun stuff to buy. Here is a Bing search for a rifle. Specifically, what are they searching for? Thermal rifle scopes on Bing. The last question here in our example questions is what is the last saved time of the document, which was last saved by Timothy? So what this question or a question like this is looking for is, do you know how to field search using the index search tab? So let's take a look at how to do that. Still in the index search tab, we're going to enter our search of last saved by, because that was the field that it asked us for. Contains, so we do the field contains, and then whatever, in this case, our search term is, we say add, we get 1 hit. We do a search now, include all documents, and expand that to view our document. Hey, we've seen that before. And we go to the properties pane because the question isn't the name of the document. So we need to go a little deeper and look at the Microsoft Office metadata. The last saved by is Timothy. That's why we got our hit. And the last saved time was October 3rd, 2020. Okay. So the answer to that question might be that date. It might ask you something else. But again, can you search by fields? Lastly, for the study guide, the known file filter will be covered on the AccessData Certified Examiner exam. So you will need to know how to set up a known file filter. You do not have to create a hash list. You just need to know how to build one and how to use it. Okay, and where the results are found. So concepts around the known file filter might be how to create a group, okay, know where the KFF files are grouped and displayed, and then know your order of processing. Remember, you may not have all the right processing options right off the bat, so you're going to come back in and do additional analysis. Say if you carved, you're going to want to run known file filter afterwards, okay, to make sure that that gets caught up in your known file filter. So let's jump into Forensic Toolkit and take a look at some of the known file filter structure within the FTK interface. So here we are on the Overview tab. And if we expand out File Status, you'll notice that we'll have known file filter, both alert and ignore, listed in the overview pane. You can view those files within the KFF alert or KFF ignore. Okay, that's where they'll be displayed. You can also write filters, that sort of thing. To configure your KFF, you're going to go to Manage in KFF or the known file filter, and you're going to launch the configuration dialog box to create known file filter groups. Remember, you have to create a hash set first and then assign that hash set to a group. Once you've created a group, you can then run that group against your evidence. Okay, so this video has covered the core concepts of what will be contained within the ACE exam. Get good at those topics, those skills, and everything will be all good. Good luck, and we hope to see you in training. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.